So I want you to just picture a logistics coordinator sitting in this dim control room in Singapore.
Right, early morning.
Exactly. The sun is barely coming up, her phone buzzes with a freight alert, and she pulls up a live vessel tracking map. And what she sees is, frankly, kind of terrifying.
Yeah.
It's dozens of ship icons just clustering, stopping, and, frantically trying to reroute in real time.
Total bottleneck.
Yeah. Because as of today, April 14, 2026, American warships have officially begun enforcing a blockade of Iranian ports right through the Strait of Hormuz.
Which is massive.
It is. We're talking 21% of the world's daily oil flow passing through a corridor that's, just 40 miles wide?
Yeah, about that.
And this morning, that corridor closed. So today, in this deep dive, we are looking at why this physical naval blockade is actually triggering a structural earthquake in the world of artificial intelligence.
It sounds disconnected, but it's really not.
Not at all.
Yeah.
We've got this fascinating stack of intelligence briefs, visual production scripts, market digests, and our mission today is to synthesize all of it. We want to understand how the fragility of the physical world is, fundamentally rewriting the future of software.
Yeah, and the cascading effect is what's truly alarming here. When you go through the intelligence crossing our desks today, there is a very clear, urgent narrative that just sort of emerges. We are really standing at a crossroads.
Right.
On one hand, you have extreme global instability, choking supply chains, volatile energy markets, and that is accelerating this massive urgent push toward hyper-efficient, open, and decentralized AI.
Because people want tools that don't break when the world breaks.
Exactly. But then on the exact opposite side, big tech is doubling down. They are building these highly restricted, multi-billion-dollar superintelligence fortresses.
Yeah, and the true, aha moment for me in these sources was realizing how we talk about the cloud.
Yeah.
The tech industry has spent the last decade talking about the cloud as if it's this ethereal, magical space up in the sky.
Like it just exists everywhere and nowhere.
Right. But the cloud is just a concrete building. It's a warehouse.
Yeah.
It requires vast amounts of water, electricity, physical hardware. So when a physical choke point like the Strait of Hormuz gets squeezed, it doesn't just bump up gas prices.
No, it sends shock waves through the entire server infrastructure supply chain.
Exactly. We are talking about disrupted shipments of GPUs, raw materials for server racks, advanced cooling components.
And power costs. I mean, the intelligence briefs show oil sitting at $98.48 a barrel today.
With market sentiment labeled as extreme fear.
Right. So the sheer cost to power those centralized gigawatt data centers, it's skyrocketing. Suddenly, the future of software architecture is literally being dictated by naval warfare.
Which is wild to think about.
It is. It forces this profound recalculation of risk. Because if you are an enterprise and your entire workflow depends on API calls to some centralized server halfway across the world,
You're vulnerable.
highly vulnerable. Your digital operations are essentially held hostage by physical world logistics. So you start asking, well, which labs have stockpiled GPUs? Who gets priority access when compute becomes incredibly scarce?
And that exact vulnerability is what's driving this aggressive pivot toward models that can run locally, right?
Absolutely. I mean, look at the Hugging Face report that just dropped on the new Darwin 27B Opus model.
Yeah, let's break down why Darwin 27B is turning so many heads right now. It's a mid-size architecture, just 27 billion parameters.
Which is tiny compared to the big players.
Right. For context, frontier models usually require hundreds of billions, sometimes trillions of parameters. Yet, this relatively compact model just hit 86.9% on the GPQA Diamond benchmark.
And we should clarify, GPQA Diamond is not some basic trivia test.
No, it evaluates graduate-level reasoning. We are talking highly complex chemistry, physics, biology problems that actual human PhDs actively struggle to solve.
And it currently ranks 5th globally.
Which is just astounding for its size.
It really is. But the mechanism behind how it achieved this is the real breakthrough here. Because according to the creators, Darwin 27B reached this level of reasoning without ingesting a single proprietary data source.
Wait, really? How is that even possible? Because the prevailing wisdom has always been, to build a smarter model, you have to just vacuum up every copyrighted book and lock down database on the internet.
That was the old playbook. But the paradigm is shifting from data quantity to data quality. So instead of just scraping the entire web, the developers utilize highly curated public data and synthetic reasoning traces.
Meaning they used AI to generate the training data.
Exactly. They used AI to generate complex, step-by-step logic puzzles to train the model on how to think, rather than just having it memorize facts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because they threw out all the junk data, they were able to shrink the model down to 27 billion parameters. And at that size, you don't need a massive gigawatt data center.
It runs locally.
It runs locally.
And right on the heels of that, Google just dropped the open weights for their Gemma 4 family.
Yeah.
They released it under an Apache 2.0 license, which legally allows developers to use, modify, distribute the software totally freely. And it's fully integrated into Hugging Face.
And notice how Google is explicitly positioning it. They're calling it Frontier Multimodal Intelligence on Device.
On device. That is the critical takeaway.
Right. Because if the cloud goes down or if network latency spikes because a data center in some conflict zone goes offline, these models simply do not care.
They just keep running. It reminds me of an analogy like relying on a massive centralized frontier model is like navigating a massive oil supertanker through a narrow strait.
It's powerful but highly vulnerable.
Exactly. Whereas models like Darwin 27B and Gemma 4, they're like nimble off-road vehicles. They run on your device, completely bypassing the choke points entirely.
That's a great way to look at it.
And one of our visual sources today really grounds this reality. It's a clip of a community college student in Ohio. And she is running a powerful open-weight model on just a cheap, off-the-shelf consumer laptop to build a supply chain simulation.
She didn't need to apply for beta access.
Right. She didn't need thousands of dollars in compute credits. The barrier to entry has just dropped to zero, exactly at the moment when the world desperately needs more people equipped to solve complex problems.
It's incredible, but the contrast to what else is happening right now is pretty stark.
Oh, yeah. The irony is heavy here. Because just as millions of developers and students are embracing these decentralized on-device models to insulate themselves from all this global chaos.
One of the most powerful companies on Earth is structurally moving in the exact opposite direction.
Yes. Let's talk about Meta. Because they have officially launched Muse Spark.
Their new model.
Right, the very first model to come out of their dedicated superintelligence labs. Now, earlier this week, the tech press was hyperventilating over the sci-fi implications of the word superintelligence.
Naturally.
But we're going to ignore that marketing buzz entirely. Let's focus on the structural reality of what is actually happening in that room.
Well, the structural reality is defined by a colossal concentration of capital and a fundamental shift in corporate strategy.
Right.
This new division is led by Alexander Wang. He was brought in 9 months ago in a deal reportedly worth $14 billion.
$14 billion. That is not a typo.
No, it's a massive bet. Meta is explicitly using Muse Spark to experiment with a completely new AI model revenue strategy. And this pivot comes directly after the Llama 4 launch, failed to meet their momentum expectations.
So they are building a heavily guarded, heavily capitalized fortress.
Exactly.
But I have to challenge the premise that this is necessarily a bad thing, though.
Yeah.
I mean, if you are aiming for true frontier-breaking intelligence, you can't achieve that on a community college laptop.
That's fair.
The sheer compute required for the next paradigm of AI kind of necessitates centralization. So maybe Meta's $14 billion investment is the only realistic way to push the boundaries of physics and mathematics. Isn't this fortress mentality just like a prerequisite for progress?
It's a valid argument, but the core issue isn't really whether centralization accelerates progress. The issue is oversight. When you concentrate that much capital, that much compute power, and talent behind closed doors, independent audit frameworks completely disappear.
Right, because it's a black box.
Totally. External researchers cannot look under the hood to understand the training data, the safety guardrails, or even the failure modes of Muse Spark. We just have to take Meta's word for it.
Which is unsettling.
Yeah, when a single corporate entity dictates the architecture of a frontier model in secret, you really have to ask who is actually holding the keys.
And that structural risk perfectly bridges into the broader debate dominating the tech landscape right now.
The access divide.
Exactly. I mean, if you look at the news cycle, prediction markets are just going wild over OpenAI. Traders are giving it GPT 5.5 or, a similar 5.x variant, 78% probability of dropping by the end of April.
But honestly, the whole GPT 5.5 release date buzz, it's entirely a distraction.
A total distraction.
Because the defining narrative of early April is not another benchmark race. It's a profound structural fracture over access.
Yes.
It is the open versus closed divide, and it is crystallizing right now around two very specific models: Anthropic's Claude Mythos and Zipu AI's GLM 5.1.
Okay, let's analyze that split, because the philosophies here could not be further apart. On the closed side, you have Anthropic's Claude Mythos. Our sources indicate this is a model built specifically for defensive cybersecurity.
And it is heavily gated.
Heavily. To use it, you have to be accepted to something called Project Glasswing, which is currently restricted to just 50 organizations globally.
50? That's nothing.
And the pricing, it costs an astronomical $25 to $125 per million tokens.
It's effectively an exclusive country club for elite enterprise and government security.
Exactly. And then, on the absolute other end of the spectrum, you have Zipu AI's GLM 5.1.
Which is a massive foundation model. It features 744 billion parameters.
But the defining characteristic is its license. It carries an MIT license.
Yeah, let's clarify what that actually means for the developer listening right now.
Right. So an MIT license is basically one of the most permissive software licenses in existence. It means the software is absolutely free to self-host.
You can download it.
You can modify the underlying code, you can build a commercial product on top of it, and you can run it on your own servers without asking anyone for permission.
Exactly. And what makes GLM 5.1 so disruptive to these walled gardens is its actual capability. Because according to the briefs, it reportedly just beat both Claude Opus 4.6 and GPT 5.4 on the SWE Bench Pro coding benchmark.
Which is incredibly significant. I mean, SWE Bench Pro is not just a multiple-choice coding quiz.
No, it evaluates an AI's ability to solve real-world software issues.
Yeah, it basically drops the AI into a messy, complex GitHub repository, gives it a bug report, and tells it to write the code to fix the problem completely autonomously.
So for a free open-source model to beat proprietary closed models on a real-world engineering task,
It's a watershed moment.
it is. And it forces a decision. Developers, enterprise engineering teams, they are actively shaping the future of digital infrastructure with every single deployment choice they make.
Right.
Every time a company chooses to self-host GLM 5.1, instead of, signing a multi-million-dollar API contract with a centralized lab, they are casting a vote for a decentralized ecosystem.
So if you are listening to this right now, and you're deciding what tech stack to build your internal tools or your startup on next week, you are staring at this profound fork in the road.
You really are.
Do you build your infrastructure hoping to get a golden ticket invite into the 50-organization walled garden of Project Glasswing? Or do you build on a 744 billion parameter model that you legally control?
And we are seeing builders make that choice in real time, which really brings us to the broader context of today's deep dive.
Yeah.
Because we cannot talk about the explosive productivity of these AI tools without acknowledging the pretty grim, chaotic reality of the physical world they're being deployed into.
Right. The intelligence briefs from April 14 paint a very severe picture of compounding global crises. And, we are impartially reporting these facts exactly as they appear in the source material.
Right.
In Eastern Europe, a Russian strike on the northeastern Ukrainian city of Sumy killed 34 people and injured 117.
And in the Middle East, the briefs detail that Israeli forces struck the last functioning hospital in northern Gaza, where at least one child died from oxygen deprivation, alongside separate strikes that killed 7 Palestinians.
Furthermore, an Israeli military tank rammed United Nations peacekeeping vehicles in southern Lebanon, blocking access to UN positions, and a separate Israeli airstrike killed an infant during a funeral in Lebanon.
And domestically, the briefs also detail some severe bureaucratic shifts. The U.S. Trump administration has terminated temporary protected status for 14,600 Afghans and 7,900 Cameroonians.
So this decision strips legal protections from over 22,000 immigrants, requiring them to depart the United States by May and June.
We are looking at a world experiencing profound human suffering and geopolitical upheaval.
We are. But what is so striking in our source material is the jarring juxtaposition between the extreme fragility of the physical world and the sheer acceleration of the tools people are using to navigate it.
Yeah, it's a paradox.
Amidst displacement, blockades, and conflict, the capability for ground-level operators to actually build and optimize is expanding rapidly.
Because people are using this technology to impose order on the chaos.
Right.
These tools are no longer just prototypes in some lab. They are actively amplifying human capability in real-world workflows today. Just look at the product launches hitting the market right now that are designed specifically for Operator.
Yeah, Soft.ai Co-Builder is a perfect example of this.
Oh, absolutely.
Because this isn't just a chatbot that generates like a conceptual wireframe.
Yeah.
If you have a displaced business or a disrupted supply chain, an operations team can describe a necessary business application in plain language, and the Co-Builder just outputs a fully functional, database-backed tool.
It bypasses the traditional software development lifecycle entirely.
Right. No coding is required to spin up essential infrastructure.
And on the more technical side, you have tools like Overin.
Overin is fascinating.
It goes far beyond the standard autocomplete copilots developers have been using for the past few years. Overin actually deploys AI front-end and back-end engineers directly into your code-base repository.
Wait, like digital employees?
Exactly like digital employees. They take discrete, scoped tickets like bug fixes or feature scaffolds, and they execute them, delivering reviewable code updates via pull requests.
That's crazy.
It integrates into the actual mechanics of a human development team, vastly accelerating output.
And then you have tools like Penvoy, which tackles probably the most persistent criticism of AI, which is the hallucination problem.
Right, making things up.
Yeah. Penvoy generates polished, verified client proposals in 60 seconds. But the crucial mechanism here is that it strictly uses your actual real-world credentials and portfolio data.
Oh, so it can't hallucinate.
Exactly. It is hard-coded to never invent qualifications. It grounds the AI output entirely in verified reality, which is essential for businesses that are just trying to survive in a volatile market.
And this push toward autonomous capability, it's reaching everyday operators. There is a live rundown university workshop happening tomorrow that's specifically designed to teach non-technical business operators how to build their own competitor intelligence agents.
Wow. So the unifying theme across all these tools is a fundamental shift in agency.
Yes. AI is no longer this mysterious, untouchable force acting on people from a remote server farm somewhere.
Right. It's a tangible lever that people are actively pulling, like that logistics coordinator in Singapore rerouting physical ships around a military blockade.
Or the student in Ohio running a local supply chain simulation.
Or the small business owner generating verified proposals. They are all utilizing decentralized intelligence to maintain autonomy.
To impose order.
Exactly. So to bring all of these threads together, today we looked at a landscape where physical choke points, like the blockade at the Strait of Hormuz, are really exposing the deep vulnerabilities of centralized data centers.
Right.
We examined how disrupted GPU supply chains and surging electricity costs are driving a vital need for resilient, locally run AI.
And we saw the structural reality of Meta's $14 billion closed-door superintelligence lab alongside the heavy gating of Anthropic's Claude mythos.
And we contrasted those fortresses with the radical open-source accessibility of models like Gemma 4, Darwin 27B, and GLM 5.1.
Because the choice is being made right now about open weights, synthetic training data, and self-hosting, they are laying the concrete for the next era of digital infrastructure.
Yep.
It is a profound choice between relying on a fragile, centralized system or building a resilient, decentralized network.
Exactly. So whether you're a developer, an operations manager, or a business owner, you are looking at a map that is actively being redrawn.
Right in front of us.
The ecosystem you choose to invest your time and resources into right now, whether you buy into the closed, walled gardens or build within the open, decentralized community, that will definitively shape your operational survival over the next decade.
Absolutely. And I want to leave you with a final thought to sort of ponder as you navigate this changing map.
Yeah, what's that?
We've seen today that a compact 27 billion parameter model like Darwin can achieve graduate-level reasoning entirely without relying on proprietary data.
Right, totally synthetic.
So if high-quality synthetic data is the new baseline and frontier intelligence can be run on a cheap consumer laptop, what happens to the multi-billion-dollar valuations of tech giants whose only true competitive moat is the massive troves of data they have locked away?
Oh, man.
If world-class intelligence can just be synthesized from the open world, who really owns the future?
That is the multi-billion-dollar question. The map has changed. The only question now is how you're going to navigate it. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.